once again, welcome back to my channel. It is time to be a hater. Today I'm going to talk about the books that I hated in 2021 or was disappointed by. Mostly disappointed by. There are only 2 books that I hated and are worth talking about in this video. Sometimes I read a novella and I don't like it, but I don't care because I didn't spend enough time on it. And some books are just long and subjectively bad. We're going to start with 𝕊𝕆ℙ𝕀𝔸𝕃 Venom by Penelope Douglas. So this was my first Penelope Douglas, and I think it's going to be my last Penelope Douglas because I did not love it. I gave it 2 stars, but even that seems a bit much, you know what I mean? Because there were not many things in this book that I enjoyed. This is an FF bully romance, and you would think that the bully part is the part that I didn't love, because usually I'm not that much into taboo romances or dark romances, but I don't mind it, honestly, when it's executed well, and I don't think this was the novel that executed it well. It was long, it was repetitive, it had way too many subplots that I didn't care about and I don't think this book needed. The thing that I dislike about indie romances in general is that sometimes the authors go a bit ham, as in they don't really have the guts to edit some things out that they needed to edit out because no one actually cares. That is something that I see with 2 types of indie authors. The first one is the established type. They have the established fan base, case in point, Penelope Douglas. Her books are getting bigger and bigger. And the other type of indie author is the beginner. With the beginners, I can forgive that, but with the people that have been in the industry for a while, I'm not that lenient. I believe that a strict editor is key to making a story good and enjoyable for the audience, not just self-indulgent. And Penelope Douglas's 𝕊𝕆ℙ𝕀𝔸𝕃 Venom, the only book that I've read, seems a bit indulgent. Like, there's so many things that I don't believe in that happened in this book. For example, it's a little bit like watching Riverdale, but that's only a part of the problem. I feel like I would have been willing to forgive it if not for the romance. If the romance was stronger, I would have loved the story more. The story revolves around 2 girls. One is a rich bitch, the other one is from a bad part of town. She's also indigenous, and they are rivals that are on the same sports team in their school. They're also very attracted to each other sexually, so they have this tension that is not entirely based on their rivalry. As a concept, it is fun for me. I'm willing to give any book that has that a chance. The problem is their relationship never developed into a loving relationship, and in every enemies to lovers there has to be a point, a believable point, where the relationship grows into something more. The nature of the relationship between these 2 girls changes, but it never becomes healthier. And you would want that usually in romance, unless it's a dark romance, unless we're talking about serial killer and their love interest types of romances. These were 2 regular girls, so I would expect their relationship to get better. The sex scenes were good, the tension at the start was good. What I was opposed to is how they never stopped treating each other terribly, even when the author was blatantly telling me that they are in a romantic relationship now. So that is something that I did not love. The coming out stuff was not dealt with empathy or care, in my opinion, from the author. And all of that on the backdrop of a Riverdale-like world building was not making the story better. The length also is too much, and the author had more time to put annoying subplots in it. So I was not vibing with it. I'm definitely not going to pick up more Penelope Douglas unless I really need to, as in if it's a challenge video or something. I'm not planning to read more of her books. The next first book is Meet Cute Diaries by Emery. I honestly hated this book so much, specifically the protagonist. The cover was really cute, the synopsis was really cute, it was supposed to be a romantic comedy, but I didn't vibe with the comedy that much. And also in a romantic comedy, the protagonist has to be flawed but lovable, and in this one he was just flawed. He was really mean. It was actually a struggle to be in his head most of the time. He was just rude to everyone, and he was just talking about people's looks a lot and how they're all ugly, and I was just not vibing with it. He was extremely selfish, self-absorbed, as most teenagers are, but they usually, at least in fictional stuff, have other qualities that make them likable, and I don't think that the protagonist of this book had likable qualities. There were other characters that I enjoyed and would have loved to see the story from their point of view, actually, but this protagonist was unbearable to me, and I didn't enjoy the book for him specifically. But also, this book was supposed to be a fake dating rom-com, and the fake dating element was so weak, it just crumbled in the middle of the book. I wouldn't put it into the synopsis that this book has a fake dating trope, because the fake dating trope in this book did not live through all the specific stages that we're used to seeing. I usually don't mind when people defy expectations. Authors need to be really skillful at writing a specific trope to be able to break it properly, and I don't think that Emery made it happen for me. I didn't love this book. I would have DNF'd it if it was not so unique in terms of representation. This is a young adult romance between two transgender people, and we don't see that often. Sadly, it did not deliver what it promised to deliver. And I also don't think that I share the idea what a likable character is with Emery in general, judging from some tweets that I've seen. The next 4 books are disappointing reads. These are the books that I've had high expectations for, or heard a lot of hype for and just did not like, or there were certain elements in these books that could have been changed to make these books perfect for me. The first book that I want to mention in this category is Mangoes and Mistletoe by Adriana Herrera. I was hyping myself for this book so much. People were saying how sexy and how fun it is. It's a novella about 2 women that meet during a cooking competition, and I love cooking competition romances. I love cooking competition stuff in general. The thing about this novella that I didn't love is one of the characters. I don't even remember her name anymore, but she was very obnoxious. She was the type of character that is looking for a fight for no reason. And the second thing that I think makes Adriana Herrera unreadable to me is how she writes sex scenes. Some people were like, oh, it's so spicy and hot, and I'm like, please stop talking. Not people that were reviewing the books, the characters where they were having sex. The novella is full of cringy, dirty talk. I'm not the person that likes reading dialogue in the middle of the sex scene in general. It's not my thing. Romance and erotica is very personal in general, and what works for some people doesn't work for others. Sometimes I see people posting tidbits from romance books that they read, specifically from the sex scenes that they think are very hot, and I'm like, oh my god, this is embarrassing. If someone said that to me, I'd block them from my bedroom. So the way Adriana Herrera uses dirty talk really ruined the novella for me. I wanted to fling myself into the outer space when I was reading the sex scene. I was so uncomfortable, and I didn't love the experience. So I'm not sure that Adriana Herrera's stuff is for me in general after reading this novella. I might give a chance to a different book maybe, but if you read a lot of Adriana Herrera, tell me if it's the common way she writes sex scenes. There are trends with authors, but Mangoes and Mistletoe was just not my thing. It was not for me. The next book that I want to talk about is A Dowry of Blood by Gibson. It's a favorite of many this year. A lot of people love this book. I also enjoyed the story and the characters. I don't think it's that revolutionary. I've read revenge plots before. What made this book a little bit less enjoyable for me than I expected initially is the writing style. It's very beautiful and it's very quotable. There's nothing about the quality of writing that I can critique. My problem with this book is I didn't get attached to the characters or the story because it was epistolary. So the protagonist, one of the brides of Dracula, writes him a letter after they got rid of him, so after they killed him. It's a very intriguing concept, and I honestly would have loved it more if it was written differently. It worked for other people though, and more power to them. I personally am just not a big fan of epistolary stuff. The next book is Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers, and I feel like I'm gonna be murdered in cold blood for this opinion. I don't think that this book is bad, but I do think that the marketing team was wrong for what they did. Basically what happened is Honey Girl was constantly advertised as a romance novel, and it is very far from a romance novel. It is women's fiction. It's contemporary coming of age with a romantic subplot, and if you pick it up with the idea that it's a romance, it becomes really disappointing, because while the tropes that the author promised to deliver were delivered, they were not included in the story in the way a romance author would include them. I wanted it to be a romance, and I wouldn't have picked it up if I knew that it's not a romance. If you think about this book as a romance, it has a very weak romantic interest, as in she's very much a manic pixie dream girl. She doesn't get fleshed out very much in the story, but this same thing would have been a problem if this book was marketed as a coming-of-age contemporary. So I definitely attribute my disappointment with the marketing team. I do not approve of how they decided to promote the book. So I'm not crossing out this author as an option for myself. I'm definitely going to pick up other books by them, but I'm going to be cautious about the genres. The last book is a recent read. It is Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell. I had really high expectations for this one. This is why I'm including it in this video. It was enjoyable. I gave it 3 stars. I was buddy reading it with a friend, and I think she gave this book 4 stars. My only problem with this is you can tell that this was fanfiction once. If I was reading it as fanfiction, I would have been ecstatic, because for a free story, it's phenomenal. For a story that is traditionally published, it needed a bit more editing. Certain scenes in this book felt forced because the story needed to adhere to the traditional plot structure. Let's start from the beginning though. It's a sci-fi MM romance with an arranged marriage. The 2 protagonists are getting married because they are from different planets, and this marriage is going to ensure an alliance. One of the characters is a widower. His past marriage was also political, and they had a pretty abusive relationship, so trigger warning for that. This new relationship is different, though he's very cautious on his new husband because of his past experiences. This part of the story actually was dealt with a lot of empathy, and I really enjoyed it. But back to the structure. There is a scene between the protagonists that is set in the middle of the ice desert. They share the same tent, and for structure reasons they needed to have sex, which has 0 build-up. The scene feels forced because it's there to not serve the character arcs, but to serve the plot overall. There were certain other things that I didn't love that were very fanfiction inspired, such as terrible communication between the protagonists, to the point of them being painted as deliberate idiots. No person ever is that bad at communication. It can be done in a funny, endearing way, but it became tiresome. One of the protagonists specifically was so obtuse, I kind of thought that it was done deliberately, so it would be easier for the author to move the plot along, and I hate when authors do this. When you make the protagonist stupid, so it would be easier for you to build the story, I hate that. The author did a fantastic job with the world building though, and I found the romance enjoyable. There were just certain tiny things that I didn't love and thought could be improved. I think that this author has a lot of potential, and I'm going to pick up their other work. I just really wanted this novel to be phenomenal, and while it was good, it was not satisfying to the point that I wanted it to be. These are all the books that I wanted to talk about. I didn't have a lot of duds in 2021. Well, I was better about DNFing books. If you want to see a video of all my 2021 DNFs with the reasons why I decided to stop reading the books, tell me in the comments down below. I do have quite a few books that I don't think Booktube even heard about, so I feel like it's gonna make an interesting video. Also put a black heart emoji in the comments down below because we are haters today, and tell me about the books that you did not vibe with as well. This is it. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon with another one. But until then, bye.